the phone calls, they just keep on booming, and this is where the in-market buyers are. So I'm seeing a lot of people really switch on to improving their phone processes. Of course, that makes me excited because you know what I do.
Inbound phone calls are better than internet leads. Hang on, I have 1998 calling, and I just want to let them know that you're here, giving us the news.
What music? What soundtrack is playing?
It was a Saved by the Bell rerun. I don't know how they were watching that, but. Welcome back, everybody, to the Wheelhouse, episode 5, which is actually one more than we had last week. And this is a special Labor Day. Since everyone's doing 20% off for Labor Day, we're not, but we're just recording it a little bit early so that you can have something to listen to over the weekend that'll help prepare you as we head into the first week of the last month in the third quarter. And that tends to be kind of dialed in. There could be a lot of things. There could be a lot of things that happen in the automotive world, right? So let me just introduce everybody first. Obviously, captains of the ASOTU team and the upcoming ASOTU Con, Kyle Mountsier and Paul Daly. And then we have Jennifer Suzuki joining us for a second week in a row. Didn't get enough punishment last week. I'm so happy. And then specifically for this Suzuki Kramer, you guys look like really could be the law firm that I would choose. Absolutely.
I'd be disappointed if you didn't. It's definitely the firm you can trust.
If I needed to sue a supermarket for like a bad tomato, like this is looking exactly like the Suzuki Kramer, and I can't wait to see your guys' commercials on TV.
Who's the third person? You got to have a third.
I don't know. Mountsier, Suzuki, Kramer sounds like the really strangest blend of three attorneys.
Yes, Mountsier puts you at the top of the mountain. The peak.
It is. I mean, and that's why it works so well here. So, and as always, please remember that the views and opinions expressed here are those of the person speaking only and not representative of their employer, their employees, or the companies they may work with. So other than that, let's get started, right? So it's going to change every week. I mean, until it's just fun. So it's going to change a little bit every week. But we've got 30 seconds for each one of you to tell us what it is that's captivating you in the automotive world this week. And let's go ahead and start with Brian Kramer making a triumphant return to the Wheelhouse. Brian?
I'm going to say the most exciting thing that I've seen this week is Tesla dropping their prices up to 18% today, and the ripple effect that that's having throughout the organization. You know, it's over $15,000 on these Tesla Plaids, and also doing tax credits on the Tesla Model X's. So, I mean, you can look at it a few different ways, but I think one way that I'm looking at it is it just confirms how unpredictable the EV market is and how in control of it Elon Musk is moving forward. Everybody else is following his lead.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's.
How does that make you feel, DG? How does that? Tell us how it makes you feel that he just brought that up in the opening statement.
Right. So I was going to explain that in my point methodology here. So Brian, that was a well thought out opening statement, and it would have been 20 points. But you pulled both a Jason Rice and a Matt Haken and took content from the show and used it in your opening segment. So. And that's
I see. Well, I'm used to living in a vacuum.
Okay, so that's 2.5 points for your.
That might be
statement.
A negative. Oh, he still got points for that.
It's 2.5. It's still
okay. It was well articulated. It's
still a good point. So he missed what we're going to talk about later. All right, Jen, how about you? 30 seconds.
Does this have to be news related? I didn't hear anything really exciting this week, and I can just tell you what I see that's exciting in the stores this week. I love the fact that people are getting really switched on to their phone processes right now. They're recognizing that internet leads, they're going to yield X amount of numbers every month, but the phone calls, they just keep on booming, and this is where the in-market buyers are. So I'm seeing a lot of people really switch on to improving their phone processes. Of course, that makes me excited because you know what I do.
Inbound phone calls are better than internet leads. Hang on, I have 1998 calling, and I just want to let them know that you're here, giving us the news.
What music? What soundtrack is playing?
It was a Saved by the Bell rerun. I don't know how they were watching.
I was like Third Eye Blind, Semi-Charmed Life. Yeah, that was 98. Right?
I got to see the Goo Goo Dolls live at an OEM meeting one time. That was anyway, not related. Okay. And you called this show irreverent.
Yeah, right. I thought you were going to go tough
occasionally,
Paul.
Occasionally,
we are reverent as can be. Okay, so
Reverend Govaer.
If you're irreverent, can you be reverent? It's like if you're malnutritioned, are you just nutrition?
Yeah, no one ever says that was very reverent of you.
Exactly. See, throw it out. Okay, Kyle, 30 seconds.
I think my 30 seconds is surrounding EVs and how it's impacting traditional OEMs and their ability to communicate clearly to both customers and dealers, and their workers, right? With the UAW and just some of the trade talks with Ford and Ford opening up lines of credit, and then you got Colorado out here putting like $19,000 of incentives. Just nobody knows which way is up with EVs.
Yep, and they frustrate everybody. That's the common theme. All right, but point well made, and so that's 8 points for you, Jen. We're gonna just zero you out there on the. I'll give you an opportunity to catch up later.
I feel like the news just keeps circling the same stuff. We haven't really seen anything, exciting. It's all the same stuff every week.
I always just ask AI.
UAW. Okay.
Or I look Kyle on my computer.
You're the first person to say UAW.
Yeah. Bing, 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 bing.
Paul?
Okay, so I like Kyle's point about the EVs, and that means a Model X at 80 grand. You could now, with the Colorado credits, get it for 60 grand, which is half of the price it was at the beginning of the year. Well, that's nuts. I feel like the scene in Lord of the Rings where they're inside like the castle, the stronghold, and there's a bunch of an army on the other side, and Gandalf says to everybody, whatever comes through that door, we're going to kill it. And I feel like that's the auto industry right now with September. Like, whatever comes through that door, we're going to kill it. And that's how I feel everyone's stacking up right now.
That's accurate. Yeah, whatever it is. But that's
EVs,
accurate.
a strike. I don't know. It doesn't matter. A hurricane, whatever.
Let's talk about EVs being snarky, right? So Rivian CEO doesn't even understand people. I don't know if he understands horses actually either, but right. So doesn't interview.
Is that the end of your statement? He doesn't even understand people, period.
I mean, that could have been.
He might be a little disconnected.
He's not leaving on the horse he came in on.
Yeah.
Oh. So according to him, if you're going to buy a combustion powered vehicle in light of all these policies that are out and are coming out, quote, it's sort of like building a horse barn in 1910, which by the way was 1911, like not a good year for horses, but
I think people still build horse barns actually.
They do. Yeah. And like imagine buying a Chevy Suburban in 2030. Like, what are you going to do with that? Right. In 10 years. Yeah. Like gas stations will be slowly disappearing. It's just weird.
That's the quote.
That's how it came to print.
I wonder
from a CEO.
That's
I'm a
language.
Rivian fan, but I watched
and
I
Wall
watched one
Street
getting towed by
responds with a
diesel tow
cheer.
truck.
Right.
I mean, who's his press secretary going to be? Sean Spicer? Like, what do you come out of that?
I picture, again, views expressed are of the person, not the organization. I picture him going back into like a room with some pocket protectors and everyone like kind of giving high fives and fist bumps. Like, you really showed him, and everybody else was like,
a Suburban.
what are you going to do with that?
Right, until they start replaying that clip in like 5 years.
Oh,
and
no.
it's
I mean, Rivian has to be around in 5 years for that to matter. Whoa.
Yeah. I have to agree.
Is this like Rivian roast?
They could
because if you look at the last two things we've brought up about Rivian, one is how the owners are trying to figure out if they should sue each other or Rivian over their tires disintegrating at 6,000 miles. And the second thing is about the CEO of Rivian saying that, like, what are you going to do at the gas station by 2030?
Yeah.
They also have another interesting strategy. They're raising prices.
They're selling a lot of EVs. They're selling a lot of EVs.
It's such an interesting play because the play a year ago was we're going to basically be the skateboard that everybody else rides on top of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's just throwing shade at all the legacy OEMs
and gas stations
who he originally wanted to purchase his skateboard.
Oh, you think he's a little salty? Is there a little...
Feels salty.
Feels a little kettle cooked Rivian there?
It feels salty. Hey, we would love to have him on the show though.
Oh, yeah. Listen, if any one of the 9 people that's listening to this can have some type of connection to someone at Rivian or Jim Farley, actually, or both, really, at the same time, that would be great. But okay,
Just an idea.
All right. So going back to the topic of Tesla slashing prices, I was actually looking at the Model 3, right? Because then that brings your entry level rear wheel drive, which I think is their most sold model, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 37 grand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so first of all these price changes, like who's the schmuck at the dealership that gets the packet of new window stickers and has to go around plastering them onto the cars? Don't say they're all made to order, Brian, because there's a Tesla store near me and I see that there's cars on the ground.
With window stickers?
That's all hearsay.
Which part's hearsay? there's
If
cars
you look
on the
online,
ground?
there's no ground stock.
Okay. I look in the street though, or the parking lot. Yeah. But I mean, what's that?
Everybody's perception
So what's
is
that
different.
like? Would you want that if you were a franchise of an OEM that just like randomly slashes prices, moves prices? I mean, what's that like to operate in a store like that? How about you have to convince people you're a one price store? We don't negotiate. Prices are set. We're a one price store. And then Elon enters the chat.
Yeah.
They don't. Yeah.
Or how about if you
no
ordered a vehicle,
negotiation.
your vehicle's supposed to show up next week and it didn't come in because it was delayed for logistics or whatever, and now all of a sudden your car just dropped $18,000 in one day. No fault of yours.
Right. Or it could go the other way too, right? If it's just as easily lowering it, can't they just as easily raise it then also? So the car that I ordered, then what? So is this another case of Tesla is just as much like any other car buying experience? Just looking at it from a different
I think this is okay. Here's the thing. Walmart is the worst at remerchandising their cars. Kohl's at their products. Kohl's is somewhat of the best, and it's because they can dynamically change the price on the car via an inventory feed or of their product via an inventory feed. I just think we're going to see Maroni labels change to where we can digitize them, and like I'm not that worried about the pricing thing. I think and being a franchise dealer potentially of any of one of these manufacturers that changes the price on the dime, it can be done by a feed. It can be sent directly to the vehicle via digitized price change. I think
it's no different than dealer cash either.
Yeah, but I think the bigger issue is the vehicle changing value immediately.
That's a killer,
and that impacts the used car market and it impacts consumer
and your insurance too, right?
Brand.
Like, what are you taking an insurance policy out on? Speaking of insurance, I did not mean that to be a perfect segue, but it is.
It's great. It's a great segue.
Movie I'm very excited to see. Yet another movie. There can't be enough movies about Ferrari or Lamborghini or Ford and Ferrari, however it works out. But anyway, so Adam Driver plays Enzo Ferrari in the new Ferrari movie that comes out. And Adam Driver wasn't allowed to drive a Ferrari.
Well, look at him. I mean, would you want him driving your Ferrari?
Whoa.
I'm sorry. That was.
He looks like Enzo. What are you talking about? Like, what is it?
Looks like he can drive a Ferrari. Like, yeah.
Is he not high enough in that caste system? Because I know you have to have owned other Ferraris in order to get certain Ferraris.
I mean, that's why he said it was because insurance reasons they wouldn't let him drive it. But
that's
I'm like,
a great scapegoat.
That's the most Ferrari
it's
thing
like
ever.
You're actually just not good enough for that.
You're gonna make a movie about Ferrari, and we'll put Ferraris there so you can look at them. Don't touch them.
You can't buy them.
And it's because of insurance?
You're an actor.
That's the quote he gave was he said
no,
it was due to insurance.
Like Adam Driver can't get enough insurance, and the
either that or Jenn was there, and she's like, "Guys, don't."
She's like, "Look at him! Just look at him!
No,
just look at him!
Look at him! You're gonna let him drive that car?
I'm gonna.
It's the bad guy in Star Wars.
Yeah, but I'm sure, and I haven't seen enough of it, but I'm sure those cars are older and very expensive,
undrivable.
And,
the newer cars.
You saw Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I've been to that rodeo.
Segueing that though, this I thought was interesting about Ferrari. So we're gonna use 2 blocks of time here, right? So usually when we bring up the idea of Ferrari or a brand like that, then we usually get a lot of people rolling their eyes and talking about how it's not very relatable and it's very specific and it doesn't really represent anything else in the industry. And I'm kind of questioning that because first of all, to me, their current CEO speaks to my heart, right? When he says that we're a brand that is not looking for volume and like intentionally, right? Not like other brands that just can't get volume.
They're super relatable.
They're not looking for volume.
Super relatable statement.
We're a brand that's looking for value and respecting the client. And for us, that's very, very important. The client is giving a value to our cars because they're unique, because they're limited, because they're exclusive. We could make more, but that doesn't make sense. We will offend our clients. And so you could think like, well, that's a very specific like niche. But
sounds like the kind of people I want to hang out with.
It sounds like a Ferrari buyer.
They're literally protecting you by not making.
Well, this is what's really interesting.
Is that
so
a shareholder thing?
In Nashville, there's this takeoff and landing strip that literally takes off somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 yards away from a Ferrari store, and they also land planes, like literally in the direction. It's directly under the exit and entrance.
The planes are taking off and landing
so
the runway.
right there. But no, it's not even like catty corner. It's like they have to. The approach is over the dealership. So I guess we will offend our clients is like, you're buying a Ferrari, right? And you walk in and you're like in the F&I, and he's like, go ahead and sign right. Right over that. It's just
he's hawking a loogie. Oh, that was the plane. All right. Well,
plane.
I mean, as a company,
great experience.
As a company, they've had 10 consecutive quarters of sustained growth. Share price, it's up 44% year over year. Their cars are still year 2, 3 years out on a wait, and that's after they increased production by 20%. Have they figured out how to work smarter and not harder?
Yeah, because they went after a niche.
Absolutely, they have.
But it's such a growing. But the niche is growing, or the niche. It's niche.
Niche. It's French for niche.
Like quiche. Niche like quiche.
Is it more niche now or less niche?
Niche.
It's less niche because there's
more.
They
have a lot of people in that space. I mean, if you're going to get an exotic, I don't know. Ferrari has got that old brand, that name, that reputation. I mean, everybody wanted a Ferrari when they were growing up, but I don't even know if that's true anymore. A lot of the people I know that are young, that are going to get an exotic, they're not getting a Ferrari anymore. I don't think that they've appealed to the younger guys, the younger people, and that's who's coming
Daniel,
up.
That's why they have Adam Driver. That's why Adam Driver is not allowed to drive one.
You drive a Ferrari?
Because I have, I'm told I have responsibilities, but there's
more than Adam Driver, obviously.
Colleges to pay for and things. No,
and
but but okay. So hang on. So to your point, then their buyer is skewing younger. In fact, the average age of their buyer now is younger than it has ever been before.
How much?
And
how old? Do you know?
Average.
I'm curious.
32.
30 for a Ferrari? For a Ferrari?
It's the average age?
Yeah, because 23-year-olds want to go to they're going back to malls and back to Ferraris. Gosh. It's like straight in line.
Okay.
But if you saw,
I thought everybody wanted a Lambo.
But just because you do, or a McLaren, but if you looked at the show notes, then this BT Dubs I thought was pretty uncanny in terms of strategy execution. In June of 2011, the then CEO gave an interview to the New York Times and said, we are working on making our core buyer base younger than it's ever been before. And sure enough, like it took the time because they don't make that many cars, but they've actually executed the strategy. So now you've got a much longer, you got some longevity there. I'm just throwing it out.
I feel like a white paper is about to come out about it. Ooh.
If another major news outlet steals our content and makes another story out of it, like that's just
I'll tell you what, though, just like everything, keep limiting supply is a very just good tactic when it comes to building building the allure around the product.
How would you how would you attract younger buyers then? Is that lucrative? Is that if we can't do the top end, if we don't have the brand or the facility where we can do top end, is the younger buyer the thing that we need to be going after?
I just had an idea on that. It's slightly inappropriate. Should I even say it?
Well, with that kind of intro.
Absolutely.
Read the disclaimer again.
Occasionally irreverent. Yeah, okay.
Okay, this is so inappropriate. But my first thought was how you're going to attract younger buyers to get a Ferrari. I mean, the people that
I didn't say to get a Ferrari. I'm saying in your dealership. Like, what would you do to attract younger buyers?
Okay, never mind. I can answer that now.
Yeah, you have to.
Like, no, not what I was thinking.
Yeah, no.
So is that? Yeah, I mean, I think younger buyers. The reason that pop culture and Pepsi and like they court younger buyers because they know the 18 to 25 demographic are the tastemakers for the 35-year-olds and like you get the higher demographic anyway. And so, yeah, like courting younger buyers, depending on what brand you have, it's just pretty simple. Like, what are they paying attention to now? What do they value? And how can you align yourself with it? And even TikTok, like even like being micro and local about it. Yes. Yeah. Younger buyers. I don't think that's ever changed actually.
Yeah.
Like, would you do it? Is it worth doing? Like, heck yeah.
I guess what we're saying is you've got younger people spending significantly more amounts of money. On a global basis.
Without a doubt. Gen Z has gone back to like I guess I'd call it like a materialistic value system with the high level brands. My kids and I have no idea how they know what a Gucci is. They know what Louis Vuitton is. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? But the millennial generation did not value those things. They talked about experience. They talked about finding a higher purpose. Right. Gen Z is like, community hey, work. This stuff is cool. I see it all the time with influencers, and here's the thing, I'm willing to work really, really hard to get it.
Yeah.
And so, yes, consumerism is definitely on the rise, especially when it comes to, expensive things.
Kyle, what were opinion? You look like you were.
No, I agree with that. Like everything that I see about this generation is that they have higher income averages than millennials coming out of high school and coming out of college. That they do value luxury. That they value brands.
It's all for the flex.
Yeah, it's a totally different engagement, and it's driven by a social media native generation.
Yeah,
I only know about those brands that Paul mentioned because of Jenn and Ryan. Really,
we flex
all those foreign words that they were talking about. Well, so I mean, let me switch this into like what we're talking about with what we can do to train the dealerships so that we're more prepared for whatever's heading down the pipe in September and moving forward. How much, in terms of what do we need to allocate time and resource wise, how much do sales teams need to know about other brands, or let's just say directly competitive brands? How much time or resource, how much do they need to know about another brand? Jenn, can I ask you that?
I think they need to know everything about every brand because every customer out there is shopping multiple brands. That is a fact. I talk to these customers. I can tell you when I ask a simple question, what else do you compare? What else are you looking at? What are you comparing it to? They always have a second and a third choice if you keep pressing. So, you need to know what your competitors are doing. Going back to EV, not every brand has a ton of EVs. And so a lot of times salespeople check out and be like, oh, we don't have a lot. We're not focusing on that. Okay. Yeah. But here's the thing, we still sell ICE engines. So, EV may not be the right solution. But if you don't understand how EV works or the evolution of those vehicles, then how are you going to talk about them? Because eventually you're getting EVs. You know what I mean? So you need to know the history. You be knowledgeable,
for someone who's complaining about how much we talk about EVs.
Are you doing a word count over there, Daniel?
I was actually. 3, 4. Brian,
EV,
Brian, you know a lot of. I think that most information sometimes useful.
Yeah.
Well, back in my day, that was a really, really long time ago. Before electricity even existed. But when I was comparing other vehicles, there wasn't a lot of
saying that. That is not true.
I had to keep comparing it to everything else because I wasn't working at desirable brands back in the 90s. Oldsmobile, for instance. So I didn't know the other brand better than I knew my own brand. But in keeping in mind that I think that most dealerships that I've visited lately, maybe not, the majority of them need to focus on their own product before they learn somebody else's product because they don't know that as well as they should. And if somebody comes in on an EV, a lot of times they're trying to switch them to an ICE vehicle because they don't know the product. And I'm not, as you know, I'm not a fan of EVs, but I still think that we at least need to know the differences so they don't continue shopping somewhere else. But I think that's where it needs to start.
Yeah.
You're only a fan of EV companies that end in a vowel that's A. And other than that,
I don't have one. I just know
you are coming off of a time. You are coming off a time where people weren't even demoing or doing walkarounds. So we are kind of reigniting those factors that put a deal together. So
yeah,
you're right.
For me, it's less about brands. For me, it's less about brands and it's more about technology. And I think that's brand agnostic because the technology will all look the same, and people will have more questions about the technology than the brand.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think there's some brands that do technology a little bit more technological than others, but moving on so that people don't comment. Like you let them keep talking after the timer's.
Are you talking about Ferrari?
Very pedantic people out there.
I think you said technology. I think
I did say that. All right. Can I ask? So everyone here, we're all familiar with the idea of lead generation, right? So my question is this. The lead generating websites, the display sites, or however they want to, they're not lead generating, they're a display, or they are lead generate, whatever. They haven't really changed. You log onto them and they're still showing you a car based off of your zip code is the first thing that you have to put in if you want to look at a car. They're still showing you things based off of a distance from them to you. As much as they pioneered the internet, as much as they pioneered you can see a car from anywhere, they're still showing you stuff that's like the yellow pages. right? So how much can we change in our process if those sites don't change either?
Well, I think that it should be similar to Kyle. You look like you're in a lot of pain there. Your head's about to explode.
Well, I think that are we saying like third party endemics? Is that kind of like what the industry term for the lead gen sites? Is that what you're considering right now without naming some specific large names?
What is endemic like something I need a mask for, or is that different than
it's something you probably want to stop the spread on.
Listing sites?
Yeah, like where your inventory feeds to that's not your own website that you probably pay a monthly fee for.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that people still shop by
You know why
location.
why those exist, Daniel?
No.
Obviously, people want to go into a centralized marketplace, but here's the real reason: is because there's, as Joe St. John says, buttons of deceit. That when you click on a button to click for unlock price, it doesn't do that, and then it takes you somewhere on some other road to nowhere. Or
fill out a form.
Here's a form field. You want to know what your car is worth? Enter this form field, and then it's like, okay, like on my generator, and I'm still waiting 3 years later.
But I go back to that website.
Tell me how much it is.
I remember that story.
But I go back to that website, and it doesn't say like, here's vehicles for you.
Yeah.
Here. I noticed you were looking for blah blah blah. Here's some blah blah blahs that we found. It's all first and foremost. Anything is just predicated by distance. On the thing
that's not true.
The major issue is the same major issue that all of the major players in auto websites is. The majority of the tech is still built on 2010 tech, and there's not tech that is in those sites that is built to understand the user. And like the tech that Shopify is being built on, which has recommendations and localization built into the tech without requiring someone to say, yes, accept my location or allow my location to be shared. So they won't change until they completely replatform, which is a big audacious task.
No, my point is that like, until we start saying it, I don't think it's going to happen. Because I don't think they see a reason to. And so little drum, the beat starts just a little bit at a time.
Hey, I don't want to plug, but we launched something yesterday that fixes a large part of that problem.
Yeah.
Just yesterday.
Just yesterday.
Yep. So
but he doesn't want to plug it.
No. All 110 people that went to the site saw it.
No. You'll see. It's the cars.com My Garage, where you can go in there and it has like Zillow as estimate every single day as to what your car is worth. Here shortly, it'll show you what your payoff is every single day. Ooh. But that is a new type of lead gen to where people are clicking on that constantly to see what their car is worth, no differently than you click on Zillow to see what your house is worth. But the question is, once they click on that, then what actionable steps does the dealer take? That's the real conversation that needs to happen.
Yeah. And I just have to squeeze this in here. I might be totally off the rails, but and the forms and all of that stuff to me is so dated. Like, I mean, I feel like, I want information. I want it right now. And plus we want to create leads for dealers to buy. So like there has to be some sort of text focus, like that's how we communicate now. But nobody wants to fill out forms and stuff.
No, agreed. So for a while, it seemed like if you didn't have a mechanism to buy cars off the street, it was like, what are you doing? Like you were just ostracized. Like, what? You don't know who Harambe was? And it was just like, such a bad vibe for that. So then,
I'm so glad you brought up Harambe just now. That's great.
I have like a side quest I had to complete. So then, but
now, somebody better be couldn't use the word.
But now is it with the market shifting, with values dropping, with 60%? Is it still 60% of the inventory online is aged? I'm saying, Brian, question mark in my voice, assuming that's still true. So inventories are a little bit out of whack. Markets are changing. There's financial things all over the place. Is buying a car from a retail client, is that still your best bet to get inventory right now?
Yes. If you take a look at Carvana's recent earnings report, they're running almost 80%. So is CarMax. And any of the large retailer groups that I talk to, they measure that. If you listen to the earning calls, everybody's measuring what's my percentage of vehicles acquired from consumers, what's my percentage of vehicles acquired at auctions, and there's a direct correlation in the PVR. I mean, it's glaringly obvious. The higher that number goes, Carvana was 65.06, I think, last quarter, and they've never been that high, but they've also never been that high in consumer acquisition.
65.06 what?
front and back PVR.
Oh, got it. Okay. Wow. Okay. And all of that made it into their actual financial that's okay. But that's amazing. That if you're dealing with a person that owns the car though, and they might be in a little bit of a financial
equity.
Yeah. And if you got negative equity and if you got other economic stressors, you're dealing with emotion. Whereas if I'm buying it from a leasing company or the bank, I'm not really dealing with that. So how much effort, I mean, according to what you're saying, do I still need to be, is most of my efforts still need to be calling people off of Facebook Marketplace and people for sale by owner from the different sites?
You need to be
I don't think you
out
need
of
to
your
do
service
that.
department.
Or that, right?
Yeah, I mean, between service department and low cost ads in the majority of cities that don't have dealers that have figured out exactly how to run ad campaigns that can be in the neighborhood of $1.25 to $1.30 cost per click with a cost per lead acquisition under $13, and taking those with a very simple process to about a 10% conversion ratio to acquisition. Like it's the most clear money that you could possibly spend on acquisition of trade leads and trade sell leads, as well as service. That it's just like the dollars and cents of it makes so much sense.
That's why the majority of CarMax's marketing budget, acquiring vehicles, it's been that way for years.
Well, it is time for us to total up some points. Remember, our points are just like the Constitution is for Congress, something to look at. Not much else. And let me just carry the 2 and
Brian wins.
So, yeah, I mean,
I've never won.
Would you like to do the rest of the show then, Jen? Can I just have one job? What it is?
Yeah,
my opinion.
When you get alpha types on this show is all alpha.
You can't see it. You can't see it on the screen. He's got an abacus.
I do. I have a Mac app. It's an iAbacus.
Abacus.
Brian, by popular demand and the vote, then you've actually not by.
Are we voting now?
Not by the popular vote, but by the Electoral College. You did win. You are today's champion.
Dreams can come true. It's the first.
All right. We're going to see
our law firm is taking off, Jen.
We're going to see how many rapid fire questions we can get through in 20. Why is it 20 seconds? Because that's what
I also want to know why the show notes, just so everybody knows we have a little bit of show notes. They just say 3 rapid fire questions. It's like we're setting the bar super low for Kramer just to show everyone.
That's a good point. I don't know why I left that in there. Okay.
Who is it that had the most points at one time?
That was Jason Rice. Okay. So, Brian, are you ready?
More than I ever have been.
Okay. All right. You become UAW president for one day. What's the first thing you do?
That's great.
Yeah, that is a great question. I realize that a lot of the things I'm asking for are never going to happen, so I come back with a more reasonable counteroffer.
If Tesla,
that's just me talking.
If you're going to answer one question, if Tesla offered you a franchise, would you take it?
No.
No.
And I just left Montana. It's illegal to sell one new there in that state. Didn't know that. Fun fact.
Way to go, Montana.
I don't think the Midwest is buying EVs.
All right.
Dude, the UAW question was great.
That was cold.
He's like, I don't know what to do with all this power.
Buy lease.
I had it. Yeah, it was charging through me like Thanos.
He was like, I realize I'm unreasonable.
Brian Kramer is just not built for rapid fire responses. It's just not. I mean,
he's one of the fastest reacting people I know, and you just tripped him up.
Okay. Buy, lease, or wholesale, our little FMK segment. All right. So tell me how you want to do this, right? So option A, you got a Ferrari, but you can't drive it. A Rivian, but you got to sit through the CEO roasting you, right? Or whatever the top result is when you go to a display or lead generation website and you type in your zip code, whatever the first result is that comes up, you're buying it. All right. So those are your 3 options, Jen.
I hate this game. It's too many things to remember.
They're on the screen, so you've got it. All right. So buy, lease, or wholesale.
Sell the last one because.
Which is the last? We don't know. Are you talking left to right or right to left?
Oh, what's the last thing you said? Something about the.
It's on the. Okay, if you just look on the graphic, then you'll see no drive Ferrari. Rivian.
She's like, there's video.
Jenn just has a
First
mirror
listing in your area. So I don't know. I don't have any clever things for stuff like this. A Ferrari that you can't drive.
You have no use for that,
I
right?
would keep that.
That's what most people do anyway.
I would keep that. That's what they do. They just leave it in the garage.
Ooh, okay.
And I guess
to make influencer videos.
I guess you know what remains for Rivian.
Okay. All right, Kyle.
All right. So I would buy the first listing in my area, mainly because I was probably on a website that has things called spotlights and someone put their old age inventory, which is cheaply priced. So it's going to be a great deal that I can flip.
Ooh.
I'm going to wholesale the Ferrari because I'm going to make a whole bunch of money that I never had on it anyway.
True.
And then I will lease the Rivian roast because, hey, for a little bit of short amount of time, it might be fun.
All right, Paul.
I am going to buy the first listing because while everyone else was answering, I went to cars.com, typed in my zip code, and it's $199,000 2018 Porsche 911 GT3. Never driven one, but I bet I can get insurance to drive it. Buying that. Wow. I am going to lease the Ferrari because I can do my influencer photos, even though I can't drive it. And I've never done that before in front of a Ferrari. That'll be fun. And I'll wholesale the Rivian CEO. We'd probably get along. I get along with everybody, but I said a mean thing about him, so I don't like him.
Yeah, I don't have that problem. But okay,
I do.
Yeah. We gotta obviously we know who has the high rent zip code there, because that's not, I assure you, what comes up when I go to
yeah, Syracuse, New York. Everybody's driving around in 200,000.
That wouldn't even be the most. That wouldn't even be the most expensive car you got in your lot. They're probably like the 10th down.
Okay,
Daniel.
Brian.
Yeah.
Average cost of sale. So I would.
Stop looking at my inventory when I'm not on the phone with you. That's an invasion that's a HIPAA violation.
I'm just saying within that radius.
Okay.
So I would go after the first listing because like Paul said, it's going to default to a more expensive vehicle. And it's, whatever. I would lease a Rivian because that's the only way to get an EV. And I would wholesale the Ferrari because I'm imagining that I'm not the best end user and there's probably some wholesale profit in it.
Okay. All right. Well, as usual, we went through a ton of content today and unpacked some of it. And just for our Labor Day special, we are 20% over what our normal time slot is. So thank you to our sponsors, which is us, really. Thanks to Nathan for helping to put all this together. Nathan Southwick, we couldn't do it without you. And we will see you guys next week on our next even-numbered episode of The Wheelhouse. Thanks, everybody.